Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniatures. Today we're going to do a little talking about Raging Heroes. So in front of us we see a couple of Raging Heroes models I've painted, and I've given a lot of criticism towards Raging Heroes for a lot of their models as of late have a very flat 2D feeling to them. You can see here she's very just straight. And that's not to say it wasn't a complex model, because I had to glue all those hands on individually, which is a whole other story. But again, the model itself was very much on a 2D plane. Not to knock the quality of the sculpt, because they are quite nice, but I really felt over the last few years some of their models have just had a very flat edge to them. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. So outside of her hand, that was a separate piece there, and I believe her head, you can see it's just very flat. I wanted to talk about their new Patreon models for their Thieves Guild, because honestly and truly, they're the most dynamic things I think I've seen Raging Heroes put out in some time. So we're going to just show off a couple of the new models that they have been producing. And I take back everything I've said, because they really are knocking it out of the park with these models. Just in terms of the sheer dynamicism, and there's so much going on with it. This is just one of the generic street runners that they have. Her male counterpart isn't as exciting. Not to say that he is lacking in detail or anything. And I also wanted to point out you'll see a lot less scars from support removal moving forward, hopefully. I feel like I've gotten a lot better about that. So those are some of their basic street runner guys. And not to be outdone with any boring normal human races, we got some interesting ones in there as well. I don't have a base handy big enough for our birdie friend here. But again, everything I've said about their models being kind of flat really is going to start paling in comparison. So I haven't even printed everything from the set yet. We'll get to it, but I just really wanted to show off. I was quite impressed with just the versatility of sculpting that they have going on. This is their big bruiser, orc guy. And just to give you a good sense of scale here, that's with our little dark elf friend, and using our usual Inquisitor, just to give you a good idea of how big this big bruiser is here. Yeah. And I'd say he's probably the flattest of the bunch, but he does have the advantage of his gear just all over him, and it still gives him a lot of unique character. But here, we want to show off the real crazy ones. So, again, everything I've said about them being rather flat and dull and lifeless, I have to take back and eat those words, because they really are some of the most dynamic models that I have seen in some time. Now, obviously, if you don't have access to a 3D printer, that's going to be a challenge at the moment. But you might want to get on board with that, or at least get in touch with somebody who does have access. This is probably my favorite of the bunch. I believe she was called Black Rose the Killer. But just, there's a whole lot going on there. And I already broke one, and she's actually on one of the magic carpet bases that they had included with this month's stuff, along with a giant gin. It's supposed to have everybody sitting on top of it. But here, this is probably the craziest model of the bunch in terms of, yeah, anything but flat. This is just a wild model. You got a cat burglar with a bird leaping off a rock, with the tail, with the cloak, with ribbons, with the knife, with everything just going every direction. I gotta say, quite impressive. Kudos to Raging Heroes for pulling off such nice dynamic sculpts. So I'll put a link down below to the Patreon page if you're curious, but I was blown away by the level of sculpting going on with these guys. I mean, it's just like they are completely unfettered at this moment. I guess the only big real disadvantage of having such dynamic models is if you have a 3D printer, you're going to have a real joy trying to get these guys off that print plate without damaging and destroying all those tiny itty little bits in the process. So obviously these are printed up at regular size. I mean, there's no stopping you from, building them up to all sorts of other ridiculous sizes, but they do scale quite well with other models that Raging Heroes has released. And I believe that they're going to start trying to have some of this stuff available on their website as well, cast in resin, if you are not one that wants to venture down the road of doing it all yourself. And then there's always the fun stuff, like the spiders as well, but that's a whole different story. We'll look at the spiders another day. I really was just super impressed with the quality of these sculpts. Just really cool stuff. So, and it's not often that we have a vaguely Arabian desert theme going on with models as well. So hopefully you have found this a little bit more illuminating. If you were not aware of these things, by all means, do take a look at them then. This has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.